Hi everyone, my name's Dave Jackson, and I've just put some posts on all the Northern Beaches sites for buy, swap, sell, and in the discussion section, I just entered a little bit of information about the things that I've done over the previous years of my life, which included being a radio broadcaster. I certainly got a voice for radio, and I've certainly got a face for radio, as you can see. But the incredible reaction that I've received is quite amazing. I had a discussion with a good friend of mine, Kevin, who lives up in Newcastle, and we started on radio together in Mackay in North Queensland back in about 1978, so quite a few years ago. So Kevin and I have known each other for a long time. A friend of his was doing something similar to what I'm doing with regards to attempting to interview some senior citizens, especially in these difficult times right now of COVID-19, when we're all locked down and doing our own thing and staying at home. I just thought some people may be lonely and they may want some company. And I thought, wouldn't it be great fun to chat to those people at the same time as keeping them company, but finding out about their lives, because everyone's got a story to tell. And this all started with me when my lovely wife and I moved to Spain back in 2001. I had purchased effectively what was originally an old olive farm, and we proceeded through 2001 to 2005 with building ourselves a lovely house there. If you've got the desire, you can look at that house, because we've got a website, and the website is www.sunnyvillaspain.com. Have a look, because it's our little place in Spain. It's gorgeous and we love it very much. Well, when you move to a new area like that, you obviously meet people who live in that area. And I was lucky enough to meet a lovely man who's originally from Derby in the UK. His name's Phil Money, and Phil was a videographer. And he just rang me up one day and said, look, I've got this lovely old fellow who's a friend of mine, and he wants to have a little chat with us because he was quite famous from the Second World War. Would you be interested in making a small documentary? And I said, yes, of course. I love broadcasting. I love TV. I love radio. It's all good fun. So I went with Phil to visit the home of a gentleman called Sidney Knowles, sadly no longer with us. He passed away a few years ago at the age of 93. But when I met him, he became a very good friend, and what a lovely man. We still stay in touch with his lovely wife, Frances, who still lives in southern Spain, and I feel for her at these times because, as you know, Spain is in a more of a serious lockdown scenario than we're here in Australia. We're very lucky to be in Australia with all this going on. But I spoke to Sid, and it soon became apparent that his life was just incredible. Here was a man who started to tell me about his life previous to the Second World War and then during the Second World War. And I have never met a man who has managed to cheat death so many times. And I mean really cheat death, when death is right next to you, but you survive. And he survived to the lovely old age of 93. What an incredible man. I'll give you some examples of the sort of things that happened to him. And it all started for him when he was about 2 or 3 years old. He was with his mother in the streets of England, and they were out on a shopping trip. I think he came from Preston. That's where he was originally from. Out on a shopping trip, he was holding his mother's hand. He tripped on the curb, fell into the road, and fell into the path of a steam lorry. Now, the younger generation wouldn't even know what a steam lorry was, but older people would know. There was a vehicle called a Scamel, which I think only had one wheel at the front, but it had a steam engine in it. That's how it was powered. And he was underneath this truck. The front wheel just missed him. The truck stopped. And he said to me that he remembers laying in the road, looking up, and above his face was the firebox with hot coals and hot tinders falling on his face. His mother, luckily, dragged him out and he was okay. He wasn't hurt. That was his first brush with death at only the age of, I think, about 3 or 4. And the stories just went on and on and on. And every time that he was in a scenario with regards to his life, and then during the Second World War, from the outbreak of war in September 1939, every story that he had to tell was an incredible, and I mean an incredible phase of good luck. This was the luckiest man I've ever met. Now, that documentary is on a DVD, and sadly, when my wife and I moved to North Curl back in, 2017, 18, that DVD went missing. So I've spoken to Phil, who's back in the UK now, and another DVD is on its way out. So as soon as that DVD gets here, I will be uploading that story to YouTube, but it'll be in small segments. If you want to look on YouTube now, I do have a channel. It's called Dave Jackson. The actual interviews that I've got with another gentleman who was a tail gunner in a Lancaster bomber, who also has some phenomenal stories to tell about his life and his life in the Second World War. That's a guy called George Manuel, and he is the father to a good friend of ours, Jane, who in fact was one of the girls that used to be in the Hills Angels. If you remember the show, TV show Benny Hill. Well, at the end of that, there were some girls used to chase him around to that music. Well, Jane was one of those girls, and she's a great girl. She's a great character, good friend of ours, and we met her dad, and he was the gentleman that I've interviewed. And there's about 7, 8 or 9 interviews with George on YouTube, so have a look at those. Some other people who've contacted me through Facebook have now said that the stories that we've got to portray on these videos are so fascinating they're going to let their kids watch them, because it's stuff that you won't read about in books, and you won't. I am now going to embark on a journey of finding some more lovely people who live and work down here in Sydney, in Australia. And I intend to, if I can, with their permission, have a little chat to them at their home or over the phone, whichever the case may be, social distancing and all that sort of stuff. And we'll see what stories we can drag out of their lives, because people are so interesting, especially at this time when we've got this COVID-19 going on and everybody's at home bored to death and playing around with their various laptops and TV shows and computers, etc. I thought it would be nice just to document some of these stories and put them on YouTube. So just check out my channel. It's Dave Jackson. There are quite a few Dave Jacksons on there, but there is one which has got George Manuel. And if you become a follower of that, you'll see the videos as I upload them. And thank you for showing so much interest. I can't believe how many people have contacted me over the last 3 or 4 days. It's been quite an amazing scenario. I'm also building a small studio in our backyard so we can do this on audio or video. But I do intend, if it's possible, to go to someone's house, but social distancing, of course, and record their stories. Okay, that's it. Have a good look, and I hope what you find is interesting and fascinating for you. Bye for now.